the Caffeinated People Show.
Good morning, everybody. It is Saturday morning. Let's wake up. Let's get up. Let's go do something fun. It's the holiday season, right? We just gobbled everything up on Thursday. Boom, here we are. We got how many days? Like not many. I was reminded a few months ago by my sister-in-law who loves Christmas, like ridiculously loves Christmas. And she told me how many Sundays it was until Christmas. And this was like before Halloween. And I'm like, you got to calm that stuff down. Like, this is ridiculous. So I give it 1 month. That's about it. I mean, love it. It's a great holiday. We enjoy it here. And I'm sure whatever holiday you enjoy this holiday season, it is going to be wonderful. We've had quite a full year this year. I think beyond everybody I've ever met this year and spoken to, and I've been so privileged to speak to and make friends with so many new people, especially through this show, that we're all ready for that release. We're all ready for and another chance at possibly a normal year next year, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I have an awesome guy connected to the broadcast this morning. Hello. I see you connected. Please say hi. Please ask questions, be interactive, share, like the show, and subscribe on YouTube. I'd love that. Subscribe on YouTube because you get to see every single show and be interactive as we're live. I do have a sponsor this morning. I've been sipping on my sponsor this morning in my custom Caffeinated Cooper Show mug. It is Kogo Cocoa. Kogo Cocoa is, let me bring their information up to the broadcast right there, Kogo Cocoa at www.kogococoa.com. That's COGOCOCOA.com. They are a pretty cool product. So when you go to the store to go get some cocoa, because the kids write it on the list about this time of year, right? They want something warm and toasty after you kick them out of the house and say, go get lost, go play in the street. Is that just me? I hope it's not just me. But they come in, they're looking for some cocoa. This is not the cocoa you want to make for them because this is caffeinated cocoa. And as I was mentioning, when you go to the store and you get that Swiss Miss or whatever you might get, there's no caffeine in it, which is nice. You can give it to the kids. But this one is premium hot chocolate filled with rich cocoa flavor, each cup providing the same amount of caffeine as a cup of coffee, a full cup of coffee. That's 98 milligrams of caffeine in this one little packet. And it's not loaded with anything that you don't want. It's not loaded with sugar. It's not loaded with a ton of calories. It is 110 calories, which quite honestly, if you go to the store and you get any other cocoa brand and it's the regular mix, it's going to be about 100 calories per cup. Now, this is U.S. Armed Forces veteran developed and owned. So this is a nice United States developed owned company. You're helping out a vet by going to Kogo Cocoa and purchasing your cocoa. Kogo is richer, creamier, hot chocolate made with premium cocoa, wholesome non-fat dairy milk, and zero artificial sweeteners. It's good on the tummy. Thank goodness. I am so tired of those artificial sweeteners. And then they kind of leave you a little gassy. They do, and it's very uncomfortable. So get yours today. They're available on Amazon. You can get them within a couple of days through Amazon Prime if you're a Prime member, or kogococoa.com. That's COGOCOCOA.com. Soy-free. We're doing something good for our boys and our men. Keep that soy out of their diet. I'm zipping along my morning with some Kogo Cocoa. All right, so I would love to bring to the broadcast, let me introduce him first. His name is Michael Cohen, and he's with Synergy Financial Partners. He's a licensed health, life, and fixed annuity broker. He provides proper health insurance to protect the wealth side of things through life insurance and annuity products. We're going to be talking about life insurance, term life. He's also going to be adding in some extra information. So if you don't know too many things about these items, these benefits, products, then please tune in because we all can afford it. We all need it. And Michael's going to tell us why we need it. So without any further ado, I'd like to bring to the broadcast, there he is, Mr. Michael Cohen.
Hey there.
How are you, Mike? It's good
Good.
to see you.
That was a great introduction.
Oh,
Oh my
thank
God, I
you.
was cracking up. I still am. And as I'm cracking up, my dogs see that I'm moving around and laughing, and they're just coming around for some hugs and stuff. So it's all good. All happy here.
Oh, that's sweet. How many dogs do you have?
I've got three.
Yeah, that
Yep.
now I know because we do know each other. So they're all
Yep.
Goldens, right?
Well, one's a golden, one is a flat coat, which is like a black golden,
Oh
a little
wow.
bit smaller, and then one is, I think it's a Catahoula leopard dog, but it looks like a black lab. So the mom was like this merle color, and he just looks like a black lab, and he's got light brown eyes. So
Oh.
he's cool, So they're just chewing on bones, walking around, and then one may jump up on my lap. I don't know.
All right. Well, we might hear some doggies in the background. So I would love to get into our conversation about Synergy Financial Partners. But first, it's the holiday season. You doing anything fun tonight?
Yeah, actually, I am. So I was sitting on the beach a couple of months ago, and one of my favorite bands was Night Ranger. They did Sister Christian back in the day, and You Can
Yeah.
Still Rock in America, and it shows they're going to be playing in Hiawassee, Georgia. So I immediately grab a couple of tickets. So I've got fifth row, which the last time I saw them, it was up in Tennessee right before COVID, and I had the last two seats in the back row. So they are just like kids in a candy shop. And new record that just came out recently. I'm sure they'll play a couple songs. So and Foghat, what's left of Foghat,
Yeah.
because there's only one original member. They were opening up, so it'll be cool. It's a 3,000 seat venue in Hiawassee. Can you believe that? And I don't think they're going to sell it out, but last check they sold about 1,500 tickets. I mean, it's a lot of tickets for an 80s band that wasn't like the Journeys of the world.
It's kind of an interesting area though, because that Ellijay and Hiawassee, all the high northern areas of Georgia, which is the lower Appalachian Mountains, they have so many vineyards now. They have so many things to do, and it is beautiful country. Man, you're going to have a great time tonight. So let's get into Synergy Financial Partners. You are a licensed broker with them. Can you tell us a little bit about Synergy Financial Partners and what you do?
Yeah, so Synergy Financial Partners, I mean, it's just that we do some of our own things like the life and the health and the annuities, and then we connect people with CPAs or certified financial planners if you want to play with your money in the stock market and so forth, and just professionals all over. That's why we call it partners, because we're trying to make sure people are protected not only with their insurances, but just the regular stuff, finding a good mortgage broker, somebody honest. So just setting you up with a good bunch of honest people that have your back. So that's the focus. The focus is really just taking care of people. But our focus is the different life products, the annuity product that we sell, and making sure people have proper health insurance if they don't have it, because none of this stuff is really mandatory.
So let's talk about life insurance for just a moment. I think life insurance is something that has been passed around in conversation. People have heard of it, but I don't know that a ton of people really, in my mind, when they should have it, which is going to be your 20s and 30s. Can you tell us what is the best time to start with a life insurance benefit and why?
Well, gosh, it's kind of all ages, because there are different products. I'll give you a quick story. So my daughter's boyfriend was over a couple weeks ago, and he's really interested in this, and he may eventually get his license and work with us some. But we were just talking about all the different benefits it has. So 2 days later, he's okay, but he puts his motorcycle down, and he gets all burnt up. So I work with Don Rice, as the president of Synergy, and I was meeting with him for a couple hours, going over some policies and so forth. And I told him the story. He goes, if he would have had a term with living benefits, he would have been able to tap into the burn feature. And let's just say he would have had a $500,000 policy. He would have been able to tap into, because it was a road burn, around 20 or 25% of that policy. And
That's interesting. So that's term life. That's
with term with living benefits. So a term which most people are familiar with pays out if you die. It goes to a beneficiary. A living benefits policy, so about 2% of terms pay out. Term with living benefits, about 2/3 pay out. And that would, there are about 20 triggers, but the most common ones are heart attack, cancer, and stroke.
okay.
And these are things, you don't really expect. But if you have it, depending upon the severity of any of the items that are covered, it will cover it anywhere from level 1 to level 4 or pay out at 100% of your terminal. So you can take the benefits. Let's say you've given 12 months or 24 months and you've got a chance and we'll just use a $500,000 policy.
Mm-hmm.
You can take a $500,000 to try to save your life. And, it'll pay for medical bills, experimental things, whatever you want to use it for, you can use it for. Now, you'll exhaust the policy, so there'll be nothing left for the beneficiary, but you're trying to save your life.
Right.
If it's cancer, or you get disabled in a car wreck, or you get burned in a car wreck, or you have a stroke and you're out of work for 6 months, or let's just say a year, what are you going to do to pay the bills? You're going to have to go into your 401k and pay penalties if you're below 59 and a half. You're going to have to max out your credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
You may lose your house. There's all kinds of things. I'll give you talking to somebody, and he's got about a couple $100,000 to his name.
Mm-hmm.
We ran a scenario up until like 85 he's about 50 on a particular policy. It's not important, all the details, other than he goes, I'm never going to make it 85. Nobody ever does in my family. The guys, at least, they don't. Mm-hmm. So, and he's overweight and he dips. So the issue with that is he's got a term policy. So if he dies, so his wife will be covered. But if he gets sick and he's a candidate for heart attack with the family history, the couple $100,000 he's got to his name will be gone in no time at all. And then what's going to happen? His life savings is gone, and now he's back to square one at 50 something years old. So the question you asked originally is, when do you start? When I told Don the story about the guy who's 20 who put the motorcycle down, he goes, I said we were running some scenarios when he gets married, if he marries my daughter and so forth. And he goes, they should start around 18 years old. As soon as they're on their own, get a small policy, because if something happens, how are they going to pay their bills? Now, if the parent is paying for it, it's one thing. Mm-hmm. But if the parent is not, how is that kid going to pay their bills? They're not. And listen, the odds are slim, but stuff happens all the time.
Right.
So, as soon as you are self-sufficient, as soon as you're taking care of your bills and you're trying to become self-sufficient, a policy can be very helpful. The living benefits kind, the term policies are for very unique situations. As a matter of fact, when I had gotten divorced, you have to get a term policy.
Okay.
So the term policy pays if I die. It goes to my ex-wife, and she could pay child support. What if I would have gotten disabled? There would have been nothing for me to do. I would have run out of money. I wouldn't have been able to work and so forth. So honestly, for all those people that are in that unfortunate situation, you've got to let your lawyer know you need a living benefits policy, because if something happens to either one that's paying, you need a living benefits to cover the bills. But
so tell me a little bit about the living benefits, and let's say, such as your daughter's boyfriend. So you were telling the story, and if you're just tuning in now, you can back up a little bit in the show once it posts after it's live and listen to the story again, but I'll give a short synopsis. So Mike's daughter has a boyfriend who rides a motorcycle. He laid down the motorcycle and he has burns all over his body. So you're saying that living benefits under term life, he could have drawn off of that. If
yes.
He were to draw off of that for, being temporarily disabled, unable to work, he can pay his bills with it. Is there taxation on that money that he has to be aware of?
No taxation.
Okay.
It's on a life insurance. Everything we do with either it's an index universal life or a term of living benefits. They both have living benefits. And then you could put certain riders on it depending upon the circumstances. We're not going to go into the weeds on that. But when we build a policy, we do a financial blueprint and we build a policy to give people the proper protection based upon their circumstances and situations. So everything we sell has living benefits. I've got one case that I'm working on where the person has a lot of money and has certain policies, and all he really wants is an excess term policy just in case.
Okay.
That's kind of the, I don't know, 1 or 2 or less than 5% that you really want to write a term for. But you can, it's all built on on an insurance chassis, so it's never subject to probate if you build an index universal life policy, which was set up by the politicians and the tax code for the rich people, because if you make too much money, you can't put it in a Roth IRA. So they built this product and people can dump tons and tons. It's all connected to the amount of insurance you have. So you can dump tons of money into that thing and it grows tax-free and it goes to your beneficiaries tax-free. It's never taxable, just like a Roth IRA. It's got a zero floor, so you can never lose. So let's just say you maxed out your Roth IRA and you wanted to put more money away tax-free. You're a doctor or you're a lawyer or you're on a second marriage and you don't want the money. It's not subject to probate. So there are policies out there that can never lose. They can give you living benefits and you can dump. I mean, there are people that dump hundreds of thousands of dollars a year into these policies. Jim Harbaugh from Michigan, he's got a $5 million index universal life policy. He's a beneficiary. So if he gets fired, it's a policy. Smart guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, dumping tons of money into these policies, but I'd like to talk about the other end of the spectrum of talking about what is the ballpark of cost to get started. Obviously, it's got to depend on your age and your health. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it runs the gamut. I wrote a policy for a neighbor, 2 policies. We call it a Head Start. It's in lieu of a 529C, which you have to use for college, or else there's tax penalties, like if you withdraw from an IRA before 59 and a half. So they're doing $25 a month. It has a little life insurance, little living benefits on it, but it grows tax-free and they can use it for whatever they want. So let's say at 25 years old, they had gotten all scholarships to college and so forth. You could do it for 25 a month, 50 a month, 200 a month, whatever you want to do. So it's teeny tiny, and you're starting, for a grandbaby or your child who's just born, or you start when they're 4 or 5 years old, and you just start this college fund that is non-taxable and can be used for a down payment on a house or a vacation, or you blow it on a week in Vegas, whatever you want to do. So the question to that answer is, you can start a little Head Start for a little kid at $25. You can put in hundreds of thousands of dollars a year into these index universal life policies. It's on that chassis, and it will have living benefits and the ability for the money you put it in to grow tax-free, and it's never subject to probate. So if a doctor got sued or somebody got sued and their regular insurances didn't cover it, they can't touch that policy.
I'm going to ask you a question, and this is fairly op-ed. This is your opinion. Why is such great information, such great financial planning, investment strategies, why does it seem like it's hidden? Why is it so hard for the common person to find this out?
Well, this is just my opinion. They don't really teach financial education in high school. I don't want to get political here,
Right.
but really in college, and you learn it by making a lot of mistakes, or if you're lucky enough, maybe your parents really have it together, but that's a small percentage of the population. Most people use a certified financial planner for that, but now you're on the risk of not having a good one. So the system is a mess, but the education is absolutely lacking. It's something I'm teaching now. I'm not a certified financial planner, but Don Rice, who I work for, is. So I get a lot of help and information from him, but I spend a lot of time myself. I manage my kids' money. I can't manage, like like your money, Liz. I can't manage your money, but I can manage my kids because they're my kids. I manage some of my mom's money. I manage mine, but I'm actually talking to a couple of financial planners just because there's only so much you can learn. And if you connect with the right people, they can really do some good things for you, but you have to be so careful. So I got into this whole thing to protect people's wealth, to educate, to protect. We do a financial blueprint. It's called the DIME. It's debt, income, mortgage, and education expenses. We figure out what they have, what they need, what education is going to look like, what everything is, what is their financial picture. And then we try to make sure people are set up. Make sure they have an emergency fund and make sure they're set up if something bad happens. And you never know when something may happen. And I'm not trying to scare people. We're just trying to educate people. You need homeowners insurance. You need auto insurance. If you went out and got an SBA loan right now, let's say for $500,000 or $250,000, they will not write that without a term with living benefits. Why? Because if something happens, that policy goes to the bank. The bank is the beneficiary. They need collateral. Conversely, you can write a $500,000 mortgage tomorrow, and you don't need what they call mortgage protection insurance, which is just a fancy name for term with living benefits, because the bank will just take your house back. And you'll go bankrupt and you'll lose everything. And it's a terrible situation. It really ought to be mandatory, but people don't really know about it. I didn't know about any of this stuff before I got licensed. I get divorced and I get this policy. If I die, she gets paid. And I never really thought about what if something happens to me.
Right.
My kids are going to be hurt. They're going to be in trouble.
Now, I want to talk about the security side, the back end security, and not securities, but the security of making sure that your life insurance, have they done anything over the years to secure it so that you can't easily be fraudulent with it? And I say this because I have a family member of mine, and he is now senior. He has never had a life insurance policy on himself. I think it's a very foolish move. But he was like, no, I don't want to be a target for someone to attempt to murder me so that they can get the benefits. And I'm assuming he's probably talking about his wife, right? It's out there. Let's just say
it happens, right? It's happened.
But it happens. So since it happens, is there anything, now that we have digital encryption, we have all types of things on file to try and secure these things. Is it any more secure today than it was in 1984? If some wife was finished with her husband, he had $1 million policy and he offed him.
Well, here's the thing. You could write the policy and not tell her. And she's the beneficiary. I could write a policy right now. If I was married, I could write a policy for whatever, make, my new wife or my, significant other the beneficiary, and put it in my will. And when I drop dead, they're like, oh, Mike is such a nice guy. Look at that.
And if
I would have known, I would have killed him 10 years ago. But,
and then they would never know until you were already deceased.
Exactly.
Okay, that's what I'm going to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why I said earlier, if you want to hide money, you can hide money. It's on a life insurance chassis. That's why it's never subject to the index universal. So the index universal life is kind of a personal pension. The term with living benefits is you're not building any equity in it. You've got it in case something happens. So typically what we'll do, let's say somebody needs $500,000 of insurance and they can afford to put, it's a pension plan. They can afford to put $500 a month away, let's just say. We're not going to build a policy, and they needed $500,000. We're not going to build a big index universal life policy to make big commissions. It's not about that. It's about doing the right thing by people. So you build a little teeny index universal life. You put a term with living benefits next to it. And let's say you did a 20-year term. You have 3 times to make the index universal life bigger if you make more income and can put more money away. 3 times in the next 15 years without a physical. So imagine you're 40 and
Yeah.
you've got a 20-year term.
Mm-hmm.
Now it'll expire in 20 years, but you have 3 times without a physical, no questions asked, to bump it, bump it, bump it bigger, and start dumping a lot of money as you make more money in life. So, but these are all, everybody's different. Every situation's different. We just try to help people out. And when they're done with myself or Synergy, depending, sometimes I bring Don in, depending upon how complicated it may get. He's been doing this a lot longer than me, almost 20 years. It's all about taking care of people. And there's no fee for anything because we get paid by the companies we place these products with. But National Life Group is the one that we love to use to term living benefits. They've been around for almost 200 years. They created living benefits. We use Nationwide on these fixed annuities. Again, another personal pension, where let's just say you had $100,000 from an old employer in a 401k and you don't want to put it in the market and you want to protect it. We can move it from the old employer. You should never leave money with an old employer, by the way. You take the $100,000, you can put it in a fixed annuity. It has a 0 floor. You can never lose any money. There are no fees. You pay what's called a spread. So they give you a bonus to move it, and then they take the bonus out for their fee. So if you got 10% that year, they give you a 15% bonus. So it would be 11.5, and they take 1.5 back. So unlike a 401k where you're paying 1 or 2% in fees every year, you probably don't realize it because nobody really knows what's under the cover. In that annuity, if you move $100,000, you have $100,000. At the end of the year, you didn't lose $1,500 in fees. So, it's the safe way of protecting your wealth because it can never lose money. So if the market goes south for the next 3 years and loses 10%, 10%, 10%, your 100,000 becomes 90, then it becomes 81, and then it becomes 70 something. That annuity is still $100,000, even though it's 3 years of losses.
I have a question from somebody watching. Joe Mathis is watching the show this morning. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. His question is, what about crypto?
What about crypto?
Yeah, cryptocurrency. So I'm assuming he's talking about annuities, I would believe. So what about investing crypto? Do you get involved with that? Is that something that you haven't gotten too involved? And maybe you can get back to him. Your email is scrolling at the bottom.
Yeah, we can talk about cryptos. I mean, that's a totally different. So I don't know if there's any licensed crypto brokers. A lot of, you can buy it through all these sites like crypto.com, like Coinbase. I'm invested in some crypto, not a lot, but some. But yeah, totally. I can't give advice on that. I can just have a conversation offline on. I subscribe to a couple of subscriptions, the Motley Fools that I follow for investment advice. They've recommended a couple. It's the risky side of things.
Well, that would be an interesting offline conversation. You can always email Mike. All of his information is scrolling down at the bottom of the broadcast right now. And your email is mcohen@synergyfinancial.com. That's M for Mike, COHEN @synergyfinancial.com. I'm going to sip on my cocoa. I have one other question. As we were talking about life benefits, term life, living term life benefits, I want to talk for just a moment, just to solidify, just to put this to bed as to why you need life insurance. Let's just talk about life insurance alone. The cost of a funeral today. What is the cost of a funeral today, Mike?
So the average cost is around $15,000, but I've got a situation where my mom moved to Florida, and the site is in New York. Now the site is already paid for, the burial site, but I got to put her on a plane. Hopefully it's many years down the road, but so she had me manage some money with the funeral fund. There are funeral policies, or we can write a policy for that. So that's a good idea. it'll lock down X amount and we can write it for 10 or 15 or 25, depending upon, how expensive a casket, whether it's going to be a cremation or a burial, whether you have to move a body out of state. But I haven't gotten the quotes and I haven't really done anything because it's kind of morbid, but we do write final expense policies. Absolutely. And I would suggest that either if you don't have money set aside for that, that you get a final expense policy so you have the money set aside for that. I've seen GoFundMe. Somebody dies and they don't have any money. You see these GoFundMes. That's horrible. So
that's not where you want
to
be in that position. My parents last year, I think, of course, last year was a very difficult year. We, at this point in time, between last year and this year, we all personally know someone that's passed away from multiple reasons, but they decided to plan their own funeral and they have purchased everything, all the way down to the flowers. Now, granted, they will need to be where that funeral home is, and they're going to need to be in that location. You never know as years go on where exactly they're going to be upon their death. Do you think that having a policy for funeral expenses versus having an elderly couple, let's say, or just a married couple, because, every day is a gift. We never know when our moment is over. That's the reality of it. What do you think is better, pre-planning or having a policy?
Well, I mean, if you have the money to pre-plan and negotiate, you can negotiate. You don't have to be set on, a set funeral home. I mean, I'm kind of a black and white person when it comes to this. So there's this funeral home. I'm originally from Long Island up there where they all use it. And quite honestly, when it comes time, I probably need to make a phone call and figure out some stuff soon, just in case, or else it's the last thing you want to be doing, and they take advantage of you. So there are companies out there that will negotiate all this stuff for you, but you call 3 funeral homes, and I'm not trying to be callous. You talk to them about the casket and their pricing. There's a lot of money in it, and when you're in a grief-stricken situation, they will take advantage of you, just like when you go buy a car. They will take advantage of you if you don't know what you're doing. So at the end of the day, I'm going to have to figure out which airline I use, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to figure out the site is there. So whether it's funeral home A, B, or C, it doesn't matter. They need to do what's right and, do the preparation and so forth. But it's going to be somebody saying a prayer, some people gathering, and then, a hearse taking her, all that stuff, right? So, So if you have the means to negotiate ahead of time, great. If you don't want to deal with it and you want to get a policy, things we would talk about in this financial blueprint to make sure all bases are covered. Some people will pull it out of an emergency fund, but an emergency fund is typically used for your household expenses. So you got to think about it. There's also long-term care. Quick scenario, talking to a friend of mine, and he's got his in-laws, he's got his dad and his stepmom, and then his real mom. And they have nothing set up. Now, the in-laws are young enough where we can still set them up with the term with living benefits, which we can put long-term care riders in there. And then there's long-term care policies for people. The other ones are in their 70s. But again, conversation, we check A versus B versus C. Everything we do is whatever's best for the people we work with. None of this, and you have to be careful out there, none of this stuff is driven by commissions. I got into this to protect people.
I love that.
That's it. And so there are all kinds of scenarios, and we also would love to review existing policies.
So I want to ask you for just a moment. So we're totally immersed into a digital age, since last year, and people couldn't meet face to face in many different scenarios. I want to touch on, if I wanted to meet with you, do I need to meet with you in person? If I'm in a different state, can we meet through Zoom? Are you
Yes.
able to help me with my benefits across multiple states?
Yes, all of the above.
Great.
In this age that we're in now, Zoom is accepted. So we Zoom, we do things digitally. There's DocuSigns, as long as
Great.
the face-to-face can be a Zoom, or it could be in person. So if Don writes all over the country. I write in a few states, but I could write in any state. So he's in Missouri a lot, and if somebody called him up today, he's in Atlanta right now. Somebody called him up today, and they needed a policy today. He can get on a Zoom, and because you just have to have proof that you've met with somebody, you've gone over things, they understand. So the Zoom is a great tool. A lot of companies, our competitors, us, are using Zoom in lieu of. It's a lot more time efficient too.
Sure. It absolutely is. The preparation and the drive time, you just don't have the windshield time, which is really nice. Well, Mike, I want to thank you so much for your time. I've been scrolling your information down below, so everybody knows the .com address and your email address. And I'd say email is probably going to be best to contact you. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if it goes to the Synergy site, it's really not going to make it my way. It's it's just the general company site. So just email me, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And just here to educate. And if something comes of it, that's great. But that's really why I do it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing with us this morning, Mike. If you want to email Mike, go ahead and do so. He will be back with you very, very quickly to answer all of your questions. You can meet up super easy through Zoom, face-to-face if you're here in Atlanta. His email address is MCOHEN at Synergy Financial. That's SYNERGYFINANCIAL.com. Cohen at synergyfinancial.com. Thank you, Mike. Have a great
thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course.
All right.
Oh my gosh. I love our interview segment. Thank you so much for watching the show. Stay tuned. The next show up is another Out of the Box, the wacky. Let's look at some white elephant gifts. Just my fun time. Come have some fun time with me at 12:30. I'll see you in just a few moments. As always, we are blessed. You are blessed. And I love you. See you next time.